And so today we've got a couple of things on the agenda. First, we're going to do our usual introductions and community news. We're going to also share some Anypoint Platform news. Basically, these are new capabilities that have come in over the past few months. And Mike and I will kind of do a little bit of back and forth on that one. And then our special guest today is Tim Hanline, and he's going to present MuleSoft Project Management and API Delivery Checklists. And so we'll do an intro of him just here in a bit. And then the thing everybody looks forward to, so we put it at the end so that we can hopefully keep people around. We've got prizes. So we will be giving away 3 MuleSoft training vouchers. And this will be based on a couple of things. Number one, we're going to ask some trivia questions along the way. And at the end, we will put the people who answered correctly first. We will place them on a wheel and spin that wheel, and we will select 3 winners that way. That seems to have worked out for us in the past. So first up, some community news and introductions. If you've got your phones or another browser set up, go out there and enter 3073-1973 on the Menti website. We are going to ask just a couple of questions this time. Sometimes we have several that we're entering, but you want to enter 3703-1973. And if you do that, are you guys getting a code not found?
No, mine worked.
Did yours work?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, that's odd. Let me reset my results here. Okay, I'm going to skip it. If it's working for you, great. Yeah, a couple of rules on the trivia. If you've won recently, let's say that you're halfway across the world and you've joined several meetups and you've won recently, just ask that you give others a chance to win. And once you've answered one of our trivia questions correctly, I would advise not throwing the right answer out there for other people, because we're gonna be looking for other names. You can only go under the wheel one time, so let others get their answers thrown in there, if you don't mind. So that is kind of the introductions. Let me give a little bit of a introduction to the speaker, our primary speaker today, Mr. Timothy Hanline. Tim comes to us from Mule Learning and Paradigm. He is the president of these organizations. He's a MuleSoft instructor and architect, and has been doing this stuff for a long time, 26 years as a independent consulting. His LinkedIn address is there, so definitely want to stay in touch with him. You can connect over there, and I'm sure he would love to make connections with everybody here on this call. Most of you guys who have joined us before know Mike Saleme. Mike Saleme is a principal client solution engineer at MuleSoft. So he works for MuleSoft, and he goes out to companies and presents MuleSoft as the subject matter expert, and does architecture work. He is Mule4 certified, platform architect certified, and you can reach him on LinkedIn at this LinkedIn address, Mike Saleme. And Mike is always bringing great stuff to this meetup. He stays really in touch with all of the latest product changes. So as MuleSoft introduces new capabilities to the platform, Mike is always right on top of those, and he's going to be sharing a couple of those even today. So always great to have you on board, Mike, to share with us.
Yeah, happy to support you and the entire community around any sort of MuleSoft questions at any time. And then if anyone has any questions about MuleSoft, feel free and reach out via LinkedIn anytime. No concerns. All good.
Awesome. I organized this event, so if anything goes wrong with this stuff, it's my fault. I hail from Sugar Land, Texas, which is just outside of Houston. I've got the Mule4 certification, integration architecture certification, and most recently platform architect. I'm a MuleSoft principal for the global practice at Saleme, and recently also a member of the first cohort for the MuleSoft mentors, which we'll talk about in just a bit. But anybody that wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, this is my LinkedIn connection. Would definitely love to connect and just hear what you guys are doing. Reach out anytime, and always happy to meet new faces and new friends. All right, so as we're going, share this event. Let's get some energy. I love getting energy into the community. That's what this event is all about. It's about MuleSoft community. So we want to make sure you're sharing this in your social platforms and use these tags, MuleSoft Meetup and Houston MuleSoft Meetup. This really helps us get the word out because you know people we don't know. And those people that you know don't know about us yet. So definitely get the word out because we'd love to have them join us as well for future meetups. So we're going to go into some new Anypoint Platform capabilities that have come out. Mike, I'm going to turn this over to you, let you kind of navigate through and talk about the ACM releases.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. All right, so ACM stands for Anypoint API Community Manager, right? So that's our platform where you can build externally facing API self-service type of communities. And so what's new with around the June 12th timeframe, we made available our version 2.0. It's a evolution of the capability. There's previously was around a 1.8 version. So there's just some enhancements in terms of how the options you have for providing externally facing APIs. What's new and neat with the 2.0 release is that it's got an evergreen capability such that the platform will reach out every 3 months or quarterly or so, and then automatically update itself without there needing to be a reinstallation of any module. So the platform itself will automatically receive updates on a quarterly basis or so that you can choose to elect to deploy without needing to reinstall anything. So that's what's new with the release. You can feel free and read more about it at the MuleSoft website or at docs.mulesoft.com. Right?
Yeah, one thing I'd add to that, Mike, is just that Mike did a presentation on ACM. It's probably been about a year ago, if I remember, or actually a little more than a year ago because it was pre-pandemic, I believe. But yeah. That was unfortunately, we don't have that recorded, but I think that we may have the slides out there for anybody that wants to go and look at that.
Yeah, it's great product area. I'm a specialist for that. So if there's any questions about that specifically, feel free and you can link in, message them anytime. Happy to answer them.
Awesome. Okay, Teams.
Yeah, so Teams is a new way, an evolved way for doing permissions management, roles management, access management to any asset that's in Anypoint. So just a way to organize permissions and access and sharing and collaboration that's a little bit more granular and matched to way an organization may run and structure their groups. So a few things listed here, the bullets in terms of some of the key benefits. There's some links and resources to the documentation, as well as an overview video and a blog announcement that goes into detail about the capability. So just wanted to make sure the group here is aware of that that's made available and the resources that we provide for those interested in what's new. Okay.
Awesome. All right. Data Graph 1.0. This one was announced. If anybody was able to make it to the MuleSoft Connect this year, back in May, this was one of the things that was announced, and I'm really excited about this one, Mike. So, you want to kind of walk through this one?
Yeah, it's a really good one. So the ability to be able to put and call, interact with multiple APIs from a single type of way to consume that without having to do a bunch of code to do individual calls to and orchestrate that at the code level. So it simplifies in terms of how your applications work with multiple APIs. It even simplifies how you can provide services to those that are maybe consuming the APIs that you've built. So a lot of great work has been done there. You can test drive it at a trial at the website at MuleSoft itself. So if you go to mulesoft.com, you can start a trial and then try out the data graph. There's tutorials about how to interact with data graph. There's a webinar link that gives a real in-depth review of data graph. There's a link there on the slide. So just wanted to say it is a highly sought after functionality now that is available, and there's a lot of places that you can learn more about that and in terms of how it can be valuable, and you can have hands-on capability with that. So it's a good one. Very good.
Outstanding. Okay, so next is a little bit about the MuleSoft Mentors that I mentioned earlier. So the MuleSoft Mentors is basically a program, a new community program where MuleSoft is trying to recognize developers, architects, basically anybody who is active and hoping to become active in the community. And they contribute in lots of different ways. So this first cohort of mentors included somehow myself and 15 other.
Imagine that. What kind of reason would that be, Jim? No, Jim
15 other folks.
Yeah.
No. It's it was definitely quite an honor to be asked, and so I'm pretty happy about that. But yeah, so one of the things, the things that they ask of these mentors is to basically contribute, right? They're looking for contributions of content, either through the MuleSoft website or through your third-party website. Some of the various blog post, WordPress and whatnot, and basically actively drive discussions and moderate discussion groups. So recently, so you can go out to mulesoft.com mentors /mentors to read a bit more about it, and they should be opening up another group. So if you are interested or know somebody who should be a mentor, then you can nominate them in the future. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun to connect with people across the world. Meetups. So this is really an interesting one. So as you know, I lead the MuleSoft Meetup group here in Houston, but we are beginning the communities, MuleSoft communities, which has 3 amazing ladies at MuleSoft that help run all of these meetups across the world. And many of you guys I know are joining. I recognize a few of you guys that are joining are members of communities in other parts of the world, and we're going to be adding an industry meetup group. And so if you're interested in participating more or maybe leading one of these groups, definitely go out there and let Mariana know that you are interested. You can also talk to her about speaking at one of these events. So if you're in, if you're in one of these industry groups and you want to get more involved, then definitely reach out. And if you want to reach out to me, just to kind of get an idea of what what types of things I have, that I do to organize these things, to see if that's something that you're interested in. Definitely feel free. Jim.andrews@slalom.com. Just let me know, and I'm happy to let you know what I've been doing, and hopefully you can join and do some of this stuff as well. That would be great. Sorry, Mike. Anything you want to add to that note?
Yeah. You're going to need a mic if you want to run these things. No, you're not going to need a mic. However, I'd be happy to help if you have questions as well. So is what I suggest. And I'm part of a manufacturing industry group here. So if, I know it's not listed there. So if there's process or discrete manufacturing group that you might want to have, and of course, living around the Houston area, there's quite a bit of process and discrete manufacturing being done. That would be something that I'd be happy to provide any thoughts around some areas that we could team up around that from a processing or a discrete manufacturing standpoint. That's all I'd add. So
awesome. Yeah, and I will tell you, it is definitely easier to do these things when you do have a mic. That is 100% accurate. Okay, so roadmap webinar on demand. So Mike, what do you got on this one? This is where, this is the direction that Anypoint Platform is headed.
Yeah. So our product teams put together roadmap webinars quarterly. So every quarter there is some sort of webinar, and so the last product team future state webinar was produced May 2021. They're available via the link there. So you'll find out some additional information around some areas that are new, capabilities that are being built out, such as running on a managed Kubernetes service. GKE is there. You can run Anypoint on AKS as well as the Amazon and the Microsoft Azure versions of those, and some stuff there. So some interesting stuff. There's a lot being done all the time. So it's a good link to sort of bookmark and look at every few months. Yep, good stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so if you are here, you are interested in the MuleSoft platform and different resources. Hopefully, you guys have all experienced MuleSoft training. If you haven't, I highly recommend these guys. I mean, they do such a great job on these training courses. And here's just a couple of reminders about getting that certification or how to maintain your certification. So as you know, I think we mentioned this at the last meetup. There are new examinations that have been created specifically for maintaining your certificate. So let's say that you already have your Mule4 developer certification, and it's going to expire in 2 years. So you're getting close to that 2-year expiration, and you take a maintenance exam, and this maintenance exam has about 25 questions, I believe. So it's not as fully involved as taking the whole exam. I'm not sure if it's cheaper either, but there for a while they were offering some of these for free to maintain your exam. So definitely need to go out there and check this out, right, Mike?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I've recently done the maintenance for my developer certification as well as the platform architect, and there are a subset of questions, so a little bit easier than the first time around. And then I'm going to finish up my recertification on my integration architect. So yeah, and again, if you have any questions about the certification process, how to prepare, etc., whatever, happy to answer any of those questions too via LinkedIn. So
awesome. So another great resource out there that everybody should be just taking advantage of is the Friends of Max video series. So the link to that is videos.mulesoft.com. This is hosted by MuleSoft. This is a bit more curated. You can definitely find a lot of great material also on YouTube, and there's some bloggers that do a great job of creating videos, vlogs, I guess. But these are a bit more, I guess, a bit more curated. I don't know what the right word is, but there's
There's
lots
no commercials.
of good yeah, no commercials. These are great great videos to learn different parts of MuleSoft and different things about MuleSoft.
Yep.
All right. Anything else on that one, Mike?
I would just say that there's dozens of them. So just sort of skim the catalog, because there may be 3 or 4 in there that deal directly. Then there's a lot that's been built over the months. So yeah, good stuff.
Yep. Cool. All right. Thank you very much for that. I am going to go ahead and share this. Let me see if I can present. All right. If I can drag this up. No, I can't. Never mind, Mike. I was going to try to do the Menti thing. It looks like we've got 10 MuleSoft 4 certifications so far in 2021, 3 integration solution architects, and 3 platform architects. Oh, those numbers have just changed. So we've got 11 and 4 platform architects, and I'll add my name for the 5th because I added that last Saturday for platform architecture. And then we got a bunch that are studying. So hopefully at the next MuleSoft meetup for Houston, a bunch of these 8 will have passed their certifications as well. So that's great news.
Awesome. Yeah, very impressive group. Yep.
All right. I am going to turn this over now to Mr. Tim Hanline. And I'll stop sharing, Tim, and you can share your screen.
All right, Jim. Well, thanks for the introduction. And Jim, Michael, thanks for having me here. I appreciate it very much. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Hopefully I share the right one. Okay. There
Perfect.
we go. Y'all should see my screen now, right?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay, great. So as the title was API Project Management, API Delivery Project Management, and the API Delivery Checklist. So the question is, do project managers really need to know anything about MuleSoft? And so what we found, so by the way, a little bit more about me here. I spent a few years actually doing training for MuleSoft. So I was an instructor for MuleSoft for a few years. Great fun. MuleSoft has a great training program. And a lot of fun. So then I decided, well, I'm gonna put all these architecture skills and this training skills and all that to work, doing project delivery, and we also do MuleSoft training ourselves. So the question came up, does a project manager really need to know anything about MuleSoft to do his job? And arguably the answer is no, right? But pragmatically, as we went through and actually did project delivery, and the more exposure we got to different projects and different project managers, the answer to that question actually became a little bit more clear, that it really is yes. Now, do project managers need to know the subtleties of RAML or the complexities of data weave or anything really technical? The answer is, of course, well, no. That's what you have the architects and the developers for. But what does a project manager really need to know to be successful as or actually to put the odds in his favor with regards to being successful as a project manager of a MuleSoft project? All right, so we want to at least teach project managers some of the basic concepts of MuleSoft, and then also give project managers some clues as to how to get insights and to track project progress. So that's exactly what we've done with a course that we've developed for Mule Learning. And so what the presentation that you're about to see is excerpts from that 4-hour course, right? And so we just tried to pack in some information about what would a project manager need to know about MuleSoft in order to really understand the progress of a project, but also to be able to articulate, especially to project stakeholders, some of the advantages of MuleSoft. And I'm sure you're well aware of this, but there's the common idea with regards to MuleSoft at the C-level and the director level of most organizations is that MuleSoft is a data integration tool. No problem. Okay, so If they want to, for example, integrate data between SAP and Salesforce, MuleSoft's a great tool, right? Of course it is, right? But there's more to it than that. And a project manager needs to be able to, in certain circumstances, communicate the nuance and the subtleties and the real competitive advantage that MuleSoft has, especially as compared to other tools, with regards to API management and the value of application networks and the value of actually having APIs that are discoverable and so on. So what does now, this course does not teach project managers how to be project managers, mind you, of course. This is really just going to teach the intersection between project management and MuleSoft. So what does the project manager need to know about MuleSoft to successfully lead the project to victory, right? And so what I've also found is that project managers will typically rely very heavily on architects, especially MuleSoft architects, to understand, well, what should be done and what is the progress of what has been done. And so to help the project manager not overly rely on that dependency on their architects, we've created this course. So here's a little excerpt of it. All right, so that's a little bit of, hopefully that sets the stage for what we're about to see here. All right, and folks, I will try to keep my eye on the chat window, and I want you to feel free to go ahead and just kind of throw in some questions there as we go along. All right, feel free.
Yeah, Tim, I'll tell you what, I'll watch that while you're going through, and I'll ping you if something comes up. Do you want to take those as you go?
Cool.
Or kind of save off a few at the end?
Probably want to do that. Yeah. I kind of like the discussion as we go. So
okay,
feel free.
Sure.
I'm flexible though.
All right.
All right. So so in this presentation, we typically teach project managers, well, what is MuleSoft? All right. We're going to go through some excerpts about that and just sort of highlights for your entertainment value. And then we talk about the project team roles, also an API delivery process, and also a checklist for that process. Okay. Now this is not the only way to approach methodologies and of course any sort of delivery process for MuleSoft, but it is a way, and it is a way for project managers to get those key insights as to the project's true status, true progress. Okay. All right. So this is what we talk about in our class. Let's kind of go through some excerpts here. The first thing, of course, we talk about is, what is MuleSoft? Project managers, you'd be surprised, just like at the director level or the C-suite level, they kind of know, well, MuleSoft is for data integration, right? Answer is, of course it is, but it's more than that, right? It's not just point-to-point data integrations between systems. It's actually helping companies and organizations and enterprises create a suite of APIs that's going to help facilitate and drive business for their organizations. And the APIs for the organization, the application network, which is promotes reusability and flexibility and business agility. And what are all those cool values, and how does MuleSoft deliver on those values? This is what a project manager should know in order to really articulate, in certain circumstances, the value of the tool. And why is it that the stakeholders should actually invest certain money in certain activities to develop certain solutions with MuleSoft that go above and beyond just say, doing a simple data integration between two systems. Why is it important, for example, to set up a library of API assets in Anypoint Platform Exchange, for example? Well, project managers will want to know things like that in order to really be successful and to be able to successfully communicate the true value of MuleSoft. Okay, anyway, so we teach the project managers a little bit about MuleSoft. So we'll go through a little bit of the history and the growth and then Gartner's assessment. We'll go through this real fast here. I just have some excerpts. I'm not going to go through every slide that we do in our class, but just in general, we teach them that MuleSoft is founded 2006, headquartered in San Francisco, but it does data integration, which they typically already know. And then we say, look, it also does API management, and that's a term that they might not grasp so much. And so what we try to do is try to unwrap the term. What does API management truly mean? And how does that subtly different? How is that a flavor of data integration? How does it differ from typical your traditional point-to-point data integrations or enterprise service bus type of integrations? All right. I talk a little bit about MuleSoft sales revenues And we got to tread lightly on this one because not all the sales revenues are officially published. So we've got to be anecdotal, shall we say, right? We got to surmise. But it helps to paint a picture of how important MuleSoft is in the API management and the data integration space overall. And so how does MuleSoft play in those markets? All this information is really, really useful for project managers to have just in general, as it is useful for other roles as well. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about MuleSoft Revenues. Now, this is kind of interesting slide, especially for this audience, the project management audience too, right? So we kind of paint a picture that MuleSoft sales revenues, almost doubles every year. But interestingly, when the Salesforce acquisition happened back in late 2018, sales just went through the roof. And you can imagine why that would be the case. It's pretty easy to understand why. Salesforce is a big organization. And now Salesforce is in a much better position to add some influence to their existing customer base to use Salesforce preferred data integration tool, which is MuleSoft. Now, what I know, I'm going to add a little bit more color here because I think it's kind of fun to speculate on what I think I might know about MuleSoft's sales revenues. So hopefully I don't get in trouble with Michael here too much or anybody else at MuleSoft here for spilling the beans. But I understand from a few different sources, right, that the revenues for MuleSoft, aside from the Salesforce revenues, because they're all kind of lumped together as one, so you can't really look at Salesforce quarterly report from the stock exchange and get an idea for what MuleSoft sales revenues are. You kind of have some insider knowledge, right? But their sales revenues have doubled from this number. So we're talking about $2 billion in sales revenues in 2020. And that's even during the whole COVID thing. And I have no idea what it's going to be in 2021 and what it's on pace to do. But hopefully I'll get some insider information on that. But what I like to do is paint a picture for, helping people understand why this is so important. And when you get an understanding of the growth in the sales revenue for MuleSoft, you start to understand, wow, this is why this is sort of important, because it's sort of a big deal, especially in the data integration space. All right, so MuleSoft is quickly the premier player in the API management space, which is really the pattern of choice now for data integration. All right, so MuleSoft, very important player. So we're trying to paint this picture for our class. Now, this is an old Gartner research quadrant. Most of you have already seen this. So let me go find the up-to-date one real quick. The up-to-date one looks like, let me go find it. The up-to-date Gartner Magic Quadrant for MuleSoft looks like this. Now you can say it was up-to-date as of July 2020, a year ago now. And I'm dying to see what the more recent one, I don't know if anybody has info on the more recent one, or if there is one just yet. I'm not sure that there is. But as to my knowledge, this is the most recent.
Yeah.
Michael,
Yep.
You good?
Yeah. You'll see that July there. That's the time frame that they're typically done. So sometime this next month. Yep.
So what this tells me is that MuleSoft has leadership status in this space, in their completeness of vision and their ability to execute. And MuleSoft, when you combine this with the sales revenues, MuleSoft is an escalator continuing to go up. So this is what we tell all of our students, especially people that are looking to get involved in our program. Look, it's a great place to be. It's a great place to invest your time. And it's a great place to learn because there's so much opportunity. And our feelers in the market are still indicating that the demand for MuleSoft skills is far outpacing the supply still, which is doing a great job for pushing up pay rates and salaries, right? So it's a great place to be. So MuleSoft is really a good place to be. So for the audience that we share this information with, we try to paint a picture of how important is MuleSoft. And you can see from the Magic Quadrant, yeah, MuleSoft clearly the leader of the leaders, right? So great tool. It's a great place to be. Great tool, right time, right place. All right. Okay, then we talk about integration development a little bit. And so what I try to explain in a very rudimentary way is, what problem does MuleSoft solve? And what I'm about to explain is just one problem that MuleSoft solves, right? And the data integration problem is an easy one to explain. Now, this is going to be a precursor to the explanation also on API management and also application network, the value of the application network itself, right? Because done correctly, the application network can be a great asset for an organization. Done incorrectly, the application network can actually be kind of a drag on an organization. So we can talk about that perhaps at some point. But I try to explain to the audience what problem does MuleSoft solve, just at a rudimentary level. So let's just say that we have people and systems and reports and apps, and we want to make sure that the data integration is done for each one of those systems such that each system sees the data that they need. And maybe the data for each one of these systems and apps and reports and so on, whether they're mobile apps, web apps, other systems, whatever the case may be, they're hungry for data. And what we've typically done in the past is, well, we've got back-end systems of record for various data entities, and we are going to start building data integrations. Typically, it consists of point-to-point data integrations. So we're going to get all this data to the place where it needs to be, so that the folks who run our business are equipped with the best information to make the best decisions to make our business profitable, right? So we're going to push all this data to those systems. That's data integration, right? How we do it becomes really, really important, because how we do it affects our cost position, okay? So the big value add of MuleSoft is, if done correctly, it's going to decrease the overall cost of data integration with time. Now, done incorrectly, you'll get no benefit, all right? We can talk about the differences. But what we tell our audience is that when we typically do data integration, without a great deal of forethought and strategy, the data integrations, they take the form of various flavors of point-to-point data integrations, file transfers, data pipes, SOAP web services, other forms of web services, file transfers. And this becomes very, very quickly unmanageable. Every data integration becomes its own little special application that has to be managed, which all of that has its own little cost position. So what we say is, look, we're going to do away with all that and standardize the data integration in a more well-managed way, a more secure way, a more repeatable way, more reusable way. Okay, so that is MuleSoft's overall mission. Now we're going to skip around, and I'm going to skip through a bunch of slides here that we normally would present, but we also want to communicate to our audience, especially the project managers, look, one of the more important tools from an enterprise perspective within Anypoint Platform. I'm not talking about from a design and a development perspective, no. It's really underrated, and I think in a lot of organizations, how important Anypoint Platform Exchange truly is. And so what we try to do is explain, just like we do for director levels and CIO level coaching, we try to explain to our project managers, look, Anypoint Platform is a pretty important tool, and here's why. So just in a nutshell, the value add of MuleSoft, if you were to pick a phrase or a sentence that would very quickly, in an elevator pitch type of speech, quickly convey the importance of MuleSoft and how important it is as far as a data integration tool and why it's differentiated from other data integration tools. Why would we pay $200,000 a year for a base set of MuleSoft cores per year, and when we can do open source open source development with data integration tools that are open source and free, almost free, and really, what is the value add? And when a CIO or whoever, whatever director actually purchases MuleSoft, is able to see MuleSoft as that licensing fee that he's paying for MuleSoft as saving him 5 times more money than he's spending, then we know we've done a good job of communicating the purpose and the value of MuleSoft. But when the CIO or that director looks at that bill every year from MuleSoft and goes, man, that's a really expensive tool, right? Then we know that we have not done a good job communicating the real value of MuleSoft, because the premium price comes with this implicit contract, which is this price is saving you 5 times that amount, okay? Okay, so Anypoint Platform Exchange is key to that, because the key to the cost savings and making MuleSoft a valuable tool is its propensity for reusability, reusable APIs. Now, I've known very few architects and very few developers that are savvy enough to actually create reusable APIs, and that's another conversation we can have at another time. But done correctly, it is immensely powerful and immensely reusable. One of the tools that's very key to reusability is Anypoint Platform Exchange, because it helps the organization discover the data that they need to build applications and data integrations and so on. So without Anypoint Platform Exchange, then the organization is really, really blind as to what data is available through what APIs that are deployed through, say, the MuleSoft platform. And no reusability will be achieved unless the organization really understands that they can go to Anypoint Platform Exchange and look for the data. And that also implies that Anypoint Platform Exchange should have a pretty broad audience within an enterprise. In other words, we don't just let MuleSoft experts have access to Anypoint Platform Exchange. No. We let anybody in the organization that has anything to do with data have access, at least read access, to Anypoint Platform Exchange. And the broader the audience of Anypoint Platform Exchange, and the more Anypoint Platform Exchange is used within an organization, the higher your propensity for reusability, the more MuleSoft is going to pay for itself. So this is one of the reasons why we really try to emphasize in our course why Anypoint Platform Exchange is so important. And so we actually offer training for organizations to help them understand the importance of Anypoint Platform Exchange, and then understand what are the specifications for those APIs within an Anypoint API portal in Anypoint Platform Exchange. You know, how do we understand the endpoints, the resources, the parameters, the security setup, and how do we really use the API portal and the API console in order to understand the specifications for the API? How do I request access to the API? And this is all information that MuleSoft people typically know very readily, but other people in the organization that want to create applications that maybe not be MuleSoft, that they want to consume MuleSoft created APIs or MuleSoft managed APIs at least, well, they need to know these things. They need to know where to go get the data, how to read the specifications, how to understand the security schema, how to actually test the API using the mocking service, how to request access to the API, and all that's right there in Exchange. And nobody knows that information except for people who are very well versed with MuleSoft. And if you limit your audience, your Anypoint Platform Exchange audience to just MuleSoft pros, you're going to be pretty stifled when it comes to the reusability of your MuleSoft APIs. So we teach the importance of making sure that the organization is well versed with Anypoint Platform Exchange. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation here. Now, we also like to teach the various API delivery roles. Now, before you actually kind of tune out and you think, well, I already know the API delivery roles. I bet, I'm not sure, but I bet I'm going to teach you about a role here or two that you haven't thought about before. All right, so stay tuned in. You might be surprised. You're going to learn something cool. Okay, now, of course, one of the roles, one of the actors we have in the game of API delivery for using MuleSoft is the API consumer. The API consumer may be another MuleSoft application, but hopefully you're not limiting yourself to just MuleSoft applications. Hopefully there are many other applications, many other technologies, many other systems out there that are hungry for data that are going to want to consume your APIs. So one of the key roles for API delivery is, you guessed it, the API consumer. And this is the person that typically not dictates, but typically greatly influences the design of the interface for your API. So he has to know where to go find the specifications in the API portal and Exchange, and how to read it, and then how to give you feedback. Okay, so we want to make sure that our project managers know about these different roles. Of course, we understand the MuleSoft Project Manager Now, just FYI, most projects that I work on, the project manager is not MuleSoft specific, although we're training project managers to be MuleSoft specific, okay? Typically, project managers know very, very little about MuleSoft and the projects that they work on, in which they're even managing MuleSoft architects and developers. So that's something to be aware of. Of course, so we have the MuleSoft Architect. But check this out. In addition to the developer, which we'll talk about in just a moment, there's also a role called API designer. And what I've found is in the projects that we've delivered that specializing becomes one of the keys, and you guys probably learned this from economics class, right? You probably learned this in economics, that specialization is the key to productivity. It's like economics axiom, I think is the word. But even in MuleSoft development, specialization can also be leveraged in order to increase productivity. And this concept of specialization and almost thinking about MuleSoft API delivery as an assembly line of sorts becomes the key to really tuning the performance and the output of a team. All right, so the API designer, who is very, very deeply knowledgeable of RAML and understands the API design, understands the theory behind the application network, and then understands also the API consumers and their needs, and is able to interface with the API consumers, make the revisions to the API design. In the projects that we deliver, we typically like to make sure that this role is very, very specialized, and we have one person doing that for every API that we deliver in the context of our project. And that actually becomes his full-time role. And how he does his job with RAML and how he interacts with the subtleties of interpersonal interactions with the API consumer, we found that that skill in itself, when specialized and tuned, really produces a lot of value. Okay, so we teach about the API designer role. And also there is a MuleSoft principal developer. So I'm going to differentiate between, say, a developer and a principal developer. A principal developer, or a Dev 1 role, if you will, this is your master developer, if you will. It's not an architect, at least not yet, but he is very well versed in how to create connectivity to various systems, very well versed in data integration, very well versed in all the theories behind what's going on with API management in MuleSoft. So he's you might call him a master developer. But there's also a MuleSoft developer too, and this is a more junior role. And as we're going to see for the MuleSoft checklist here, the delivery checklist, that this role can be very easily specialized and easily trained for a multitude of repeatable tasks that have to be done with every API that is delivered. And again, remember, specialization yields increased productivity and increased quality of output, okay? So we want our roles to be very, very specialized. So the developer tool role can be trained to do very repeatable tasks that have to be done with every API that we deliver. And so this is why we make them a more junior role. The tasks that they perform are very, very easily trained for. Okay, so there's two different types of developers that we teach. And then of course there's a quality assurance role. This is a testing role. This is somebody who is well versed with how to test RESTful APIs using those tools that we all are very familiar with: Postman, ARC, SOAP UI, and the list goes on, right? And they also are not only very well versed on how to test those APIs, but also very well versed on how to understand the quality of the content in Anypoint Platform Exchange. Those API portals in Anypoint Platform Exchange are really key to the API's success in life, okay? How much it gets reused. A lot of that depends on how the presentation goes in Anypoint Platform Exchange, which the API designer also is typically responsible for. But the quality assurance guy also will go in there and take a look and make sure everything is exactly as it should be. So that's another role we typically teach about. Of course, there's also the DevOps role, right? The person that actually helps with setup of whatever we're going to deploy to, whether it's a Kubernetes, or whether it's the Cloud Hub, which, by the way, is still, in my opinion, the best value out there, even though people like to complain about it because it's so expensive. Still the best value, right? And I have lots of case studies on why, right? Whatever the case may be, the DevOps folks are going to be able to set that up. Of course, they're going to set up your Jenkins pipelines for continuous integration and source code repository, and the list goes on. So we've got the DevOps role, which you all are pretty well familiar with. There's also a Center for Enablement, and this is more of a team than a role, but we like to make sure that our project managers are well aware of the Center for Development and why it's so important and what its role and what its mission is. To not be the green eye shade role, but to be the enabler, to be the helper, to be the organization that helps, to be the team that helps the enterprise understand the value of API management in an application network that's well designed and well deployed. So the project manager has to know something about that Center for Enablement. All right, and that's what we teach in our course. Okay, now, before we get into the API delivery checklist, let me check the time. How am I doing? Okay, I'll try to speed this up here, guys. I could go on for hours and hours, but
Hey, Tim,
this is like a 4-hour course. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a quick question on the roles?
Please.
So we had a question come in that asked basically if Java coding is required for any of these roles.
I love the question. I love the question. And the answer, of course, now this is going to sound like your typical cop-out answer from a consultant, but the answer is, it depends. All right. So, but here's what I'd like to say to anybody that wants to put Java into the context here, okay? Java code, I always discourage our students to put Java code into their MuleSoft projects. Anything you can do with Java, you can typically do with DataWeave. And there are so few exceptions that it becomes really important to point out that when you introduce Java code into your projects, you're adding a big risk to your projects, to your timelines, and to your costs. Java is for a specific use case. MuleSoft has provided tools out of the box that abstract so much that if you think you need to use Java, what we typically like to point out is you might not understand something about MuleSoft's tools, their vision, their capabilities. So I would like to encourage everybody to shy away from Java. Now, that said, have I used Java in some of the projects? Yes, but that's the exception, definitely not the rule. I've even been exposed to some of my customers that depend heavily on Java. As a matter of fact, they have MuleSoft, and their MuleSoft projects consist of mostly Java code. Now, what does that mean in reality? Pragmatically, what that means is that they've spent 5 to 10 times more money developing those applications than they needed to. And further, they're going to spend about 5 to 10 times more maintaining them. Okay, so MuleSoft out of the box, it's good to know Java as a master developer, as a developer, maybe even an architect, right? But just please, as a rule, don't use Java if you can help it.
Yeah, that's a great question, Tim. Can I add one other? There's a comment from my good buddy DP up in Dallas, and he makes a great point. He says that your role separation makes really good sense for faster delivery of MuleSoft projects as an assembly line. So with their current role, one person does architect, design, develop, and deploy, and that ends up slowing down the whole assembly line. So I thought that was a good. I thought that was just a good point that my buddy DP made about what these roles kind of do. So I guess the follow-on question from that is, do you see an individual playing wearing multiple hats? I mean, we certainly I see that fairly often where one person might have to be the principal dev and the dev, right? Or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
What is your experience there? And then last follow up to the Java coding question. Emmanuel was saying that they heard that custom connectors, we need to learn Java. So I guess, and that's true. If you're building a custom custom MuleSoft connector, then yeah, that's where you're going to need to dip in. But just in terms of API delivery, if you're using the out of the box connectors, then I agree with you, Tim, that if you can kind of avoid that and avoid using Java, you're going to be better off. Sorry about that. Okay.
No, please, that was awesome, because I was going to ask you to chime in. I just had this feeling that you had something to say about this. So thank you so much. And Emmanuel, you're absolutely right. Appreciate that. Divyesh, awesome point there. Yeah, and so my experience, Jim, just to I don't know, answer your question, but I want to agree with the point you made. Very often, more often than not, the organizations that are going to use MuleSoft are not going to have a very clear distinction in this roles. Many people, one person perhaps, is going to fill many of these. And that is often the case, especially when somebody calls you up and says, hey, can you help us with a MuleSoft problem? Of course, you say yes, and then you dig in and you find out, well, I've got to have some architecture skills, I got to have some designer skills, I got to have some master developer skills or principal developer skills. And so, yeah, one person typically ends up doing all of these. But for the sake of setting up a process and tuning it, yeah, so this is what we at least convey to our project managers. Okay, another question in here. Can I just cheap in? Oh,
yes, I just want to, Tim, thank you for taking my question, DP here. So kind of
yeah.
like where I work for a company called ADT Home Security, and we are a new entrant on MuleSoft market. So where we are facing more challenges that the role which you define for Dev 2, right? After that, when as a subject matter expert is when we were getting dropped for that project work, which was API development passed to us, we are seeing we have to do a lot of refactoring of that code because of not following certain standards and this or that. So breaking this assembly, putting it as an assembly line, that is one of the challenge I see. Again, that is not, I'm saying, problem of the delivery model of MuleSoft, but it is our own problem because we are not able to yet standardize our process for MuleSoft.
Okay, so DP, what I'm about to show you is a way to hopefully sidestep some of that refactoring. Okay, so what you're going to see is that for each one of the roles, whether it's one person fulfilling them all or they're all specialized, one person per role, which is probably preferable, there is a way to set up a delivery process such that you can minimize the refactoring. And I'm not talking about what MuleSoft propounds, which is valid, which is absolutely factored into our checklist, our process as well. So MuleSoft propounds, look, what you really got to do is design the interface of your API with RAML first and make sure that you get sign off and approval on that design before you go off and build it. That's great. That sounds good in theory. And in general practice, I found that to never be the true reality, right? Because people are not going to approve it, first of all. They're going to give input, but when you ask them, well, would you approve this final version? They suddenly, have other things that they've got to do, right? They don't want to do. Nobody wants to approve it. No, because they want the option to come back and change it if they need to, right? So you're absolutely right. That there is this continuous refactoring. But what I want to show you here with the process that we've come up with is that refactoring will be brought to a minimum, and it has to do with what types of activities does each role do. I'm going to get to that one real quick here, but so DP, stand by. We're going to get there. I'm going to share some of that information for you. And I don't think we'll be able to ever eliminate refactoring completely, but there is definitely some best practices, if you will, that we can put the odds in our favor, to use a phrase from Hunger Games.
Thanks,
oh boy.
Tim.
Yeah, you bet. All right, so Anam Khan asks, are any prerequisites to start with MuleSoft? Oh, wow, that's a pretty general question. And it actually, we could explode with answers to that one. So Anam, are you talking about for a developer or are you talking about for an organization? for just a IT professional, or are you talking about for an organization to adopt MuleSoft? Okay, so for a developer, are there any prerequisites? And I have this question all the time because I got people calling me up, that I had a conversation the other day that flies, this guy works for the United States government, and he flies drones. I mean, can you imagine those big Predator drones? So he sits in his office wherever he is, in the United States, and there's drones flying on the other side of the world, and he's flying it like a video game. And he says, Tim, I'm burned out on this stuff. I want to learn IT. I want to get into IT. I want to get into MuleSoft, right? So I said, oh, well, that's really interesting. I mean, being a Predator drone pilot is kind of a cool occupation. Why would you want to do that, right? He goes, no, yeah, I really want to get out. So I said, okay, look, what you really need to know is a little bit about IT. Do you have any IT experience? And he said, I took some programming courses in high school, And I said, okay, well, that's good. That's definitely a start. But just in general, I would say that the better your computer science background, the easier your learning curve is going to be. But that said, I've seen people that have come from driving Ubers full time and get into MuleSoft through our program, and actually start making decent money doing MuleSoft development. I had a kid that went through our program, 17 years old, right? He says, Tim, I want to learn MuleSoft. I said, okay, do you know anything about programming? He's like, not really. but I typically don't like to take people with no IT experience into our program, but he seems so precocious that I said, and enthusiastic that I said yes, and I brought him into the program. So he went through the training and got some coaching and some mentorship and that sort of thing. And he didn't even finish the training before he got a MuleSoft development job. I was making like $75,000 a year as a 17-year-old kid, So that's like, oh, that's great, always love to hear stuff like that. But I think just in general, the stronger your computer science background is, the better, obviously. But aside from that, if you have no computer science background, you at least need to know a little bit. In my estimation, this is what helps. You've got to know JSON. You got to know XML. You've got to know a little bit about data modeling. And I know some of you are going to say, well, Tim, what about Java? What about Spring? That's good to know too. But you can get by in MuleSoft without knowing those things. But I think the top of the list is JSON, then XML. And once you know those things, then learning MuleSoft becomes a whole lot easier. So prerequisites, a lot of people like to say you need Java, you need object-oriented programming experience. It definitely helps. But in my experience in teaching people who have no IT background, whatever, knowing JSON is the first one, then XML, then data modeling, interestingly enough, and then anything with object-oriented programming, especially Java and Spring, is helpful.
Hey, Tim, I can add something.
Please.
Yeah, I'm a MuleSoft developer, and my wife works in medical laboratory. She don't have any IT background. I really encourage her. She's been working on MuleSoft after work for 3 months. Now she's certified developer. She's actively looking. She don't have any IT background. Now she's learning data view.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for her. Well,
Yeah.
Please convey our encouragement to her and tell her we're happy for her. That's awesome.
Yeah, she joined in the meeting. She's there.
Oh, she's here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're in the right place.
Our MuleSoft family.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I'm so glad to hear that. All right. What else? Very easy to kickstart, and Mule training is amazing. Yeah, Mule training is definitely. They do a good job. Definitely. Okay, guys. I'm gonna try to get into this. All right. Let me show you how we can minimize the refactoring. Okay. So the API delivery process is a little bit different than what you've seen. So what we like to do is take our audience through, or our students through, MuleSoft's doctrine on, API delivery. You've seen those concentric circles that stand for the design phase, the build phase, and then the management phase, and how there's tools for every step in those phases. Very relevant. Definitely is very appropriate. We like to break up our delivery process this way, however, okay? Now, this is just an overview of the process that we've put together, but I want you to notice the different roles. And again, this assumes that different people play these different roles, but even if you have one person doing all these roles, the process will be similar. Now, check this out, okay? Obviously, we have a business need. We charter a project to create an API or to actually create an application network. So for any given API, we're going to follow this API. So when you look at this process, we're going to kind of know that this implies for each API, do these things, okay? The architect starts. He's going to determine the architectural approach. Okay, so we've got tasks in our API delivery checklist for this, but obviously all of the architecture craft goes into this process, okay? Then he's going to hand it off to the next phase. And the next phase is going to be the design phase. This is where the API designer starts cranking out RAML specifications. And he starts this process of engaging with the API consumers for feedback. Okay, so this iterates as many times as is necessary for everybody to agree that we've got a really good design for our API interface, okay, using RAML. But concurrently with this phase, with these activities that the API designer performs, the API principal developer, is going to work on connectivity prototyping. Now, what is a connectivity prototype? And this is very, very helpful, especially for system APIs. Now, for experience APIs and process APIs, you're consuming MuleSoft APIs typically. This activity is not so important. But for system APIs, this activity becomes immensely important because often you're interfacing with backend systems of record to feed data to the process APIs that are hopefully based on your business object model, right? But those system APIs, I can tell you from experience, it is not easy. I mean, maybe some of you can back me up on this, right? It is not easy to connect to all those different backend systems. There's protocols, there's security to get around, there's permissions to request, and there's data models to understand. There's a suite of APIs to understand, perhaps. So you've got to understand how to connect to that backend system, how to speak that language, understand the protocol, understand the structure of the data, and all that can take a week. It can take a long time. It can take 5 days. I've seen it take as long as 10 days to figure out between all the meetings to get permissions to get access. So this activity in itself, we leave this to the principal developer, and he creates not all the integrations for the project. No. This task is just simply one thing. He's determining how to communicate with that backend system. He's understanding the language and the protocol. He's getting the credentials. So he's not creating all the data integrations. No, not at all. He's just understanding the language to connect to that backend system. It's called a connectivity prototype. Now, the API developer, which is a more junior developer, is going to do a number of activities to set up, if you will, that API. He's going to, if one doesn't exist, he's going to, and we're going to see this in the checklist, he's going to create a project in the design center. Now listen, because this is going to save you some money. Create the project in the design center. From that project, create your exchange entry. From the exchange entry, create your entry in the API manager, okay? And then from the API manager, you can get the app IDs to use in auto discovery in your application. If you do it in that order, you don't have any redundancies. How many of you actually have been on a MuleSoft project in which you have 2, 3, and 4 entries, exchange entries, for a given API? Has that ever happened to you all? I've been on a few projects in which that has become like a problem. All right? Maybe I'm the only one. I don't know. But you do the things in that order, then everything is great and there's no duplication. And cutting down on duplication, of course, saves money, lowers your cost position. Very helpful to keeping your employer or your customer in the black, right? That's our job. All right, so we're going to go through this in the checklist, but his job is to do some standardized activities that have to be done for every API. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now, once that's done, all those activities are done, then we hand off to the next activity, which is generally the principal developer is going to create the integration logic, and he's going to finish the integration logic using data weave about the connectors and creating the flows and that sort of thing. You can hand the development back to the junior developer to set up alerts, reconnect strategies. There's some cleanup work that the designer has to do when the application actually gets deployed. It's got to make sure that certain settings in Exchange are updated as well, base UI being one, right? And then the API consumer can actually request access and then consume the API. Now, again, lots of activities are missing in this process, but this is just an overview, okay, of what we're getting at. And this process here supports the API delivery checklist. Now, the moment you've been waiting for, the API delivery checklist. I've never had so many requests for this in my life. People all over the world asking for this. So if you all want a copy of it, call me up, let's talk. But this is generally what we do. So the thing is, for every API that we deliver, all the activities, with just few exceptions, are identical. Okay? For example, right? For every API, we need an API, we need a RAML design, unless we're doing point-to-point data integrations. If you're creating an API, you need a RAML design. You need certain standards in RAML. You need data types. You need an exchange entry, which includes an API console. We need to make sure that correlation ID, and this is little tips and tricks, right? We need to ensure that correlation ID is in the headers of all of our endpoints. We want to check for reusability, make sure it's maximized, right? So there's a bunch of activities here that we can do, and we're going to do these activities for, again, every API, and that's the key. So the project manager is going to keep a look at this matrix, if you will, this checklist. He's going to say, well, look, for every API here across the top, we're going to perform each of these activities across the vertical. Okay? And the project manager is, without bugging the bejeebers out of the architect, going to, if he has certain key knowledge, he's going to be able to start tracking the progress of each one of these activities. And the objective, of course, is to get the team to switch each one of these boxes to done. And once they're all done, at the end of the project, then the project's done, okay? Then the whole project's done. But we've got to do these activities for every API. So the dev 2, the junior developer, does these activities, and again, very repeatable, easy to train for, and especially easy for somebody who's done it once or twice or 3 times. Suddenly they become a master at it, and they blow through these activities really, really quickly. And this is where you get that specialization and the productivity increase from your specialization from. Okay. Then we've got our design role, right? Our designers have to do a few things, and then the development. Actually, the development actually can be done after all of these things have been done with the junior developer role. So once he sets up all these things that have to be done for every application, it'll take time, right? Then the principal developer can do his craft, which is a really creative role. So he knows his role, he's very good at it, he's very creative at it, and he's going to do the data integrations and all the transformations using data weave. He's going to understand how, what the metrics are for transaction rates and data volumes and so on, and he's going to adjust everything according to his knowledge of that. And there you go. So he's going to set up MUnit, he's going to get code coverage for the testing, and he's going to do some other activities here, again, that have to be done for every API. Okay. All right, and that's the checklist in a nutshell. All right, you guys are kind of taking that in there, but
hey, Tim, let me ask you a question about that, if I can. So one of the I guess assets that MuleSoft also likes to promote with existing customers is the catalyst, right? And so how do you how does your checklist kind of balance against that, or work against that, or work with that? Like, is the stuff that you propose from your API checklist, is that kind of in line with their recommendations?
Well, Jim, let me just say that it could be, but it might not be at every point. But so what we've constructed here with the process and the checklist is based on a number of project deliveries, right? So the Catalyst is a great resource, as you well know, right? Very, very helpful, especially for people at the architecture level. So when they're not sure what the play should be, especially as it pertains to API delivery, the architect uses the Catalyst as a great resource for solving different problems, getting templates to create documents and so on. So, by the way, I hope everybody on the call here is familiar with Catalyst. Great tool if you don't know it. Catalyst.mulesoft.com. You can just log in with your Anypoint Platform credentials. And there's a wealth of information and playbooks out there in Catalyst with regards to project delivery. Okay? Great stuff. Good stuff. I encourage you to be really, really familiar with it. But Jim, no, what we've done here is not based on that. Although I'll admit to you that the information there influenced some of the things that we've done with our process and our checklist. But does it make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we want to kind of unfold what works. Okay, license accounts only. Thank you, Emmanuel. You're absolutely correct. Now that's actually so. Michael, if I could gripe a little bit about MuleSoft, if you'll give me such license. Getting Catalyst to everybody would be really helpful. Of course, I think the same thing with Runtime Fabric, but for what it's worth, Michael. Yeah, okay, he's going to ignore me. I get it. That was a pretty ignorable comment. Okay, so just to wrap it up here, we tell our students, especially the project management course students here, about the quality assurance role and what that role entails. So. Let me go ahead and skip through that one. We tell them a little bit about the QA tools that they can use because PMs might not know that, and so to kind of give guidance and to help people understand, well, these are the tools that you can use to actually test out your API. Believe it or not, it does include Exchange. Done correctly, you can actually use Exchange to test out your deployed API, right? So there's that. There's an API notebook, great tool, by the way. And then also the Postman and so on. So DevOps, right? Manage the Mule runtimes. What does that role entail? So we make sure that our PMs know that as well. And then we talk about C4E a little bit. We want to make sure that the C4E, now I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this here in this forum, guys, but let me just kind of put out this little nugget of golden, hopefully, value, okay? Remember that everyone, for those of you that are responsible for setting up C4Es, okay? Coding standards are great, okay, but they are not the end of the C4E, okay. So setting up coding standards is great, but definitely. So what you want to do in the C4E is not only do that, but you want to understand really the whole theory behind the application network. And as a C4E, hopefully you have been instrumental in helping the architecture team in the organization map out and plan out the business object model of the enterprise, and then fashioning process APIs after that business object model. And that is going to lend itself to the greatest reusability, the greatest propensity for reusability, and decreased integration costs with time, okay? So if you go out to Anypoint Platform Exchange for your organization, and do a search for customer API or customer process API, and the list consists of 10, 20, 30 APIs, chances are pretty good that something has gone awry, and there's a lot of redundancy out there, and that the process APIs really have not been laid out and designed in such a way that it resembles the business object model, and not in a way that is going to generate a lot of reusability. So anyway, more information on that, please do, don't hesitate to reach out to me. But we teach our PMs a little bit about the C4E's role. So just in summary, we went over MuleSoft as a company a little bit, and then we also talked about the delivery roles. We put forth the idea that those roles don't all have to be done by one person. One person per role really is generally preferred. We went over the API delivery process definition itself, at least at a high level, and the checklist itself, and talked about some of the different roles. And that's the class in a nutshell. Anyway, that's the end of the presentation, though. So, Jim, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Back to you.
Absolutely, no, fantastic, Tim. I definitely appreciate you, taking the time to meet with us today and to go through this with us. I think, I think project management or the project manager side of this is definitely overlooked a lot of times. So it's good to kind of see some information around that, we tend to, as techies in here, kind of deep dive on a technical aspect, right? Something that is something we can play with, but really for good projects, for projects to complete successfully, it definitely helps to have that a good project methodology and a good project experience, and understanding how that fits in with MuleSoft. Great job. Really appreciate it. Cool. So I am going to share my screen again real quick, and we're going to do a quick trivia. So Mike, if you can help us out with kind of watching for answers to come in. And I'm going to put a dashed line. So right here is the line in the sand for new answers. First question up is, name 3 of the new platform capabilities. Name 3 of the new platform capabilities. We went over a bunch, and you got to have all 3. You got to. I need all 3 in your answer. So no getting around this. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I'm going to do the spin the wheel here in just a second. So, do we have any winners yet for this one?
It looks like there is an answer with 3.
Oh yeah.
Teams, data graph,
okay.
Composer. Yep. Gridhar M. Okay. Excellent. I am going to share this spin the wheel screen, so let's do that. Okay. All right, so we will add Gridhar. Okay, awesome. The next question is, I've got to get over to my PowerPoint. It's got my questions in it. Sorry, guys. 2 seconds. How often, next question is, how often will the ACM receive periodic updates? So we talked about the ACM as one of the new components. So yeah,
we have a winner?
Yep. 3 months, right? So
all
I
right.
see, right.
3 months. That's right.
Raghuram.
Giri. Okay, cool. Good job, Raghuram. All right, we're the next question. The next question is, what is the basic capability exposed by data graph? This is kind of tricky. You had to kind of read the slide as we were kind of flipping through there. So what is the basic capability exposed by, let's see, all data from sources. Serve data, multiple APIs into one result. Okay, I kind of like that answer. Mike, what do you think? We're
the merged data from different. Let's see, who Anam.
Anam.
Looks
Anam.
like Anam.
I like
Khan
that. Okay.
Maybe has the right answer, right? Multiple APIs from a single call. Yep.
All right. Awesome. All right. Now, next question is, where are the Friends of Max videos located? Where are the Friends of Max videos located? There we go. Okay, Ganesh, good job. That's exactly right. They are at videos.mulesoft.com. Ganesh, you are on the wheel. All right, next question. Which Anypoint Platform tool promotes discoverability and reusability? Choose the best answer. So, there we go. I was going to give you all a multiple choice, but
Ganesh looks like was first, and Ganesh is already on the wheel. So Brittany.
Ganesh is on the wheels. Brittany, fantastic. Brittany is the wheel
Our
winner
fifth
there.
winner, right,
So
yeah.
Okay, and I have one more for us. I was going to say, I think that was the wife of Emmanuel. So that's very cool. She's going to get a chance to win some training. Okay, last question. Name 3 API delivery roles. 3 API delivery roles that Tim mentioned to us in his presentation. Any winners? Let's see. PM, architecture. Tim, keep us honest here and make sure that we've got somebody that has the right answer. I've got a dev. Let's see. Brittany. Okay. Divyesh. So DP, you said Dev 1, designer, and QA. Tim, does that hold water for you?
It does.
All right. Awesome. DP, you have made it onto the wheel again. Very cool. All right. So this is our list of winners. That was the last question that I had. Unless Tim, Mike, do you guys want to? Y'all have a one extra, and we're at the hour.
Yeah, you already had my 3 questions already. So yeah, no questions on the spot. That's all good.
All right, here we go. Let's spin this wheel and see who our big winners are. Before I spin it, please, if you are a winner, send me a text message on here. Put your email address. You can do it as a direct message if you don't want this to go out to everyone. Just make sure that I have your email, because I will send you an email on next steps of what to do. All right, so let's hit spin. And who's the first winner? Oh, Brittany, I thought, it was right there at the edge. Divyesh, good job, DP. Fantastic. And I've got your information. Pretty sure. So, okay, so we'll take DP's name off and we'll spin for a second winner. And this one looks like it's going to be Anam Khan. Congratulations, you have won a voucher for some free training. Excellent. All right, we'll take your name off, and one more winner. So you got a 25% chance. Is that how that works? And it looks like it is Guridar. Congratulations, Guridar. That's fantastic. So you are you 3, DP, Brittany, DP. Boy, I've already forgotten. Yeah. So Guridar, you are another winner for our trivia question. So thank you everybody for doing that. I am going to just the last little bit here.
Jim, you should try again.
I should try one more time. All right. So, hey, listen, thank you guys all for joining. Make sure you share with your network, because we'd love to have, especially if you're in Houston, we're going to be thinking about starting up the local in-person meetups again very soon. And you will get an email at the end of this thing. Please fill out the survey form. I'd love to see, we had up to 37 people that were connected at one point and checked into this meetup. I would love to see 30-something surveys, because we really take that. Mike and I look at the feedback that comes back from that, and the recommendations, the suggestions. We look at that and we try to feed that into the meetup for the next time, and continually improve this experience. Tim, I want to thank you one more time for joining us today. Really enjoyed your presentation, and definitely encourage folks to reach out to you on LinkedIn and connect. I think this was a good session today. Go forth into your week. Have a great 4th of July weekend, and really look forward to seeing everybody back here for our next meetup in another month or two. All right.
Yep.
Thank you,
Bye,
James.
guys.
Yep.
Thanks,
Really
James.
good. Yep. Very
Thanks,
good,
everybody.
everyone. Thanks. Have a good one.